Uganda's strategic position along the Central African Rift Valley, its favorable climate and altitude of 1,200 meters and above, the reliable rainfall around the Lake Victoria forested basin made it attractive to African cultivators and herders as early as the 4th century BC. It is ably recorded in history that the indigenous people were hunter-gatherers of short stature who occupied the low basin interior of present-day Uganda.
Of course, Uganda was part of the African Bushmanoid families, Pygmanoid and Bushmanoid. That is, before migration, Uganda was inhabited by a group of people history calls the Bushmen, the Bushmanoids, Bushmen, if you want it that way, and Pygmanoids, the Pygmies. We still have a bit of the Pygmies in Uganda. The Ituri forests in Congo, parts of western Uganda, we have a bit of the Pygmies, the Batwa. Those are actually a replica of the true people before migration.
The Batwa are now restricted to the southwestern equatorial forest, where they still hunt and gather their food. The Bakonjo settled very late as agriculturalists around the Rwenzori Mountains, away from the Bagisu, who settled as coffee and banana farmers on Mountain Elgon. Today, the language of these three people sounds similar. The settlement of present-day Uganda can be traced back to the early 15th century, during which migrations of various groups of Nilotes and Bantu converged into the interior of this Central African Rift Valley and River Nile Basin.
We either came as Bantu and split into Buganda, Baganda, Basoga, Banyankole, or we came as Luo and we split into Asholi, Alur, Langi, Jopadola, etc. Or we came as Atekel and we split as Je, Karamoja, Teso, etc.
The first batch of a variety of Nilotes came from the southern hills of Ethiopia. These were pastoralist Nilo Hamites. One lot spread down from Lake Turkana along the slopes of the eastern Rift Valley. They include the Samburu, Maasai, and Nandi. Another lot, called the Chwezi, moved into central and western present-day Uganda up the western Rift Valley ranges.
The founding of Bunyoro Kitara Empire began more than 1,000 years ago, as the founders of the kingdom were people, according to oral history, who originated from somewhere in Abyssinia, that's Ethiopia. The Chwezi kings took over from the Batembuzi. The most famous was in Dahura. That one, the Chwezi were very clever people, very intelligent. In fact, the system of counties, today's counties in Uganda, is their creation. They began ruling the empire because the Chwezi extend the empire to today's northern Tanzania, to today's eastern Congo, Boga Zaire, to northern Uganda, eastern Kenya, and the whole of present Uganda was all Bunyoro Kitara Empire.
This pastoralist Chwezi established the first type of state in the 15th century, which controlled expanses of land around Lake Victoria. They set up the administrative headquarters at Bigo Byamugenyi and in Tusi, and later returned to Mubende at Nakaima Hill to rule the territory stretching from the present-day Bunyoro Kitara including what later was called Muhwahwa, today referred to as Buganda, to the east of present-day DR Congo, up to northern Tanzania, where the great-grandchildren still live today.
Well, migration of people depends on different circumstances. The first is that how were they settled? How were they relating wherever they were, which we call their cradle land. The Luo cradle land, for example, is in Bahr el Ghazal in Sudan, southern Sudan. The Bantu cradle land is said to be in West Africa, probably present-day Cameroon. The Ateker, some of the Ateker are said to have moved from the direction of the Ethiopians, the Hamites. So, migration of people depends on the problems the people were facing wherever they were settled. It could be problems of lack of land, it could be problems of quarrels, it could be that they are herdsmen, they want pasture and pasture is not enough. It could be because they want to discover what exists outside where they have stayed for a long time. So that conditions them to migrate.
This is Bigo bya Mugenyi archaeological site. It is believed to be the headquarters of the Chwezi rule. The site is located in Sembabule district, about 58 kilometers west of Sembabule town. Bigo bya Mugenyi was important in the Chwezi dynasty, where the descendants still throng the sites for blessings from the Chwezi ancestors. It is located deep in the forest reserve. Emmanuel Sinjere at the site explains the locations of different sites belonging to Mugenyi, Wamala, Nakaima. Ndaula and Muanga, together with the shrine of Kalisa, their herdsman, and the kraal. But first, the gatehouse at the entrance of Bigo bya Mugenyi site. This is Kagoro site. In old days, keepers of this palace used to sit at this place. Whoever came to visit Bigo bya Mugenyi would register their presence from here. This spear is similar to the one used by guards and in the olden times. Just closer is River Nkuse, a tributary of Katonga River. This track, clearly visible, is believed to be the main entrance to the Chwezi sites, where the Chwezi used to pass with their cattle. It has different routes leading to other sites of Mugenyi, Muanga, and the rest. Starting from the other lower place at Kagoro site, after reporting their presence, there is a route they would take. After going round, they would come out from here. They would also continue down to find another route to Nakaima, coming here to Mugenyi site. They would also use the route from Katonga River with their cattle through the narrow entrance to the grazing area. Within the entire location of Bigo bya Mugenyi is the expanse of the forest. It is only Mugenyi site that is developed with reed enclosure. The hut is thatched with grass and other decoration.
When you follow the routes below, they also head here. When you arrive here, you light the fire depending on the purpose of visiting Bito bya Mugyenyi. You appeal to the owners and keepers of this palace. If you have carried anything like milk or water, you pour it in the multi-spout spot. You also introduce your purpose of visiting this site. At this place, under this tree, is Wamala site. All the Chwezi used to gather and worship here. The visitors utter their names and clan. Also, this place is used for worship.
Within Mugyenyi enclosure, there is a shrine with 2 rooms inside, believed to belong to Salongo and Nalongo. There are other artifacts like spears, gourds, and bowls.
When you enter this shrine, you light the fire and call upon the female Chwezi called Nalongo at Bito bya Mugyenyi. At this place sits the high priest, also known as Omukongozi. This is a smoking site. These spread baskets are also used for produce, which is also used for food. The spears belong to the security keepers of this palace, especially the Chwezi woman, Nalongo. This room belongs to the female Muchwezi. The other one is a store. The room over there is Salongo.
Engoma zino zikozesebwa nga tuyinga waliwo emikolo obanga
these drums are used wherever there is any ceremony. These are milk gourds. All the milk brought here is poured here before the ceremony begins. These were used by the Chwezi and are currently used by cattle keepers called Bahima. This one works to produce incense to the milk. You place it in there, put the small pieces of sticks and light fire. The smoke that is produced here gives the yogurt a good scent. These other calabashes are called ebirere in Runyankore or echabo.
in Kinyarwanda, and they are used in the preparation of yogurt.
Kati buno obulala mubateekamu omuzigo.
These others are used for storing ghee. They are called eshimbo. These are called obwitizo. They are used to clean up milk goats. These work as plates. They were used for food and they are multi-purpose. These were used in the olden times, but these days we use plates. In our series, Looking into the Future, we are going to trace our history, our destiny, starting from key players. Yola Munsamba was the first regalia keeper from the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom as it returned in 1994.
The Far East, it proves true as the royal trumpets do and as the Iron Road money does, that what you're dealing here is a culture which unites a lot of places around the world, from the Middle East, from the Far East, and from many parts of Africa. Archaeologists recovered many arrows made like this when they worked at Biko Byamugeni and Antusi. That means whoever deposited this arrow in this collection must have been also the maker of Biko Byamugeni. Historians have failed to tell us who built Biko Byamugeni. I'm telling you who built the Biko Byamugeni, who were the kings of Bunyoro. Because how does this arrow happen to be here?
History has it that the Chwezi rulers settled from 1350 to 1500 AD, by which time the Chwezi dynasty was in a crisis. Among the last three kings, King Bukuku, not from the royal family, was slain by Ndahura to restore the royal lineage. Ndahura became the first royal king, but from the lowly class of the Chwezi. Ndahura's reign was the beginning of centralization of political institutions and the adaptation to new social and economic realities of a more widespread pastoral and aristocratically based society. Victorious Navasa is a descendant of the Chwezi and now a servant of God, a preacher praying for healing. She gives a brief account of the Chwezi.
Story yinkumanyaho about Chwezi ninjumanya nkababeire baruho.
The history I know about the Chwezi is that they existed and did amazing things. But all this remains in the history of the Biko Byamugeni and other places.
Like emyanya mukuru okubanka za Jerusalem nareba ebyokutangaza ebyabebiri.
I visited Jerusalem and I saw many amazing things which are true. Because when you compare Jerusalem with the Biko Byamugeni, they are almost similar. Because when you go and pray at Biko Byamugeni, God will provide. Because it's a holy place. However, all its importance is fading. Because most wealthy people and politicians in Sembabule and in Tunsi have encroached on the Bigo bya Mugenyi land. I am concerned because Bigo bya Mugenyi would be developed and conserved to help other people know the country's history.
And towards the end of their rule, King Indahura was involved in a military expedition against rebellious Bwire Butakia, the ruler of northern Kihangiro in today's northern Tanzania. In the battle that turned out fierce, Ndahura was captured, and he later on gave away the throne to his son Wamara. Soon after coronation, Wamara moved his palace to Bwera, leaving Mubende to Ndahura's elder wife Nyakahuma. Wamara created a new government for the empire, appointing chiefs to various counties and provinces. In this way, in between the 15th and 16th centuries, new migrants displaced the Chwezi rule.
The Chwezi brought a diviner from Tanzania to predict the future of Chwezi Empire. Kakara Kashagama was brought from Tanzania to divine in Wamara's palace, who was the last Chwezi king. When a snake got stuck on his hand, he thought it was a messenger foretelling the end of his reign. Then the smoke came, foretelling that the new rulers would take over and perform similar miracles.
Right now, abantu baburijo nabo bakora biriye byabari babe bakora.
Earlier on, when Indahura had been captured in Kihangiro, Kiomia was the caretaker of the throne and had married a Luo girl called Nyatwor. She had produced 3 children, Mpuga, Kato, and Kiza. Mpuga later became the first Bito king of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom.
Kakara Kashagama kuyajire kurgaw yajir ati.
As Kakara Kashagama left, he instructed the king to betroth any person seeking to leave Chwezi blood behind. They also separated their powers to end a familiarity that would reserve their respect. They put a demarcation in the powerhouse but left their knowledge.
Akamanyiro kakaba karenga hato bakataho katen konka baturekera magezi gabo konka ndiyo mulokole.
I am saved and a prophet of Jesus.
Ngiyentumwa ya Yesu.
As the Chwezi last king, Wamara left Kitara Empire. He left behind the royal drums, Nyalebe and Kajumba, with a man called Mubimba of the Abasita clan. He requested him to hand the drums to the next rulers when they came. That was Mpuga and his Luo brothers. Wamala was aware that the incoming rulers, the Bito, were ignorant of the Chwezi custom of Kitara. He therefore left behind 2 queens, Iremera of Banyagi clan and Bunono of Baitera clan, to instruct the new rulers in state matters.
Bakabeshera bahingira urentenzo boroga bahende mu ronyekiro konka hobwe myake ne kugenda ne ho myaka nkamukaga tubacubaho kingumanya to bakazahi
Their power still exists. If you look keenly, their power is only in places where they live. For instance, the power was around their houses or homestead. But as people intruded their sites, they disappeared. Where did they disappear? In houses or underground?
I remember I had a brother who used to get drunk. He would move making noise. He told us one night he met people dressed in white who asked him why he was shouting. They later asked him to climb a tree where he spent a night. My elder brother understood the Chwezi very well. They used to go to Bigo bya Mugenyi, spend a night there dancing and drumming. For me, I never went there because I was still young.
For me, I think these are just lies. Why don't I see their houses? But we must be careful with such images. Foreigners came from abroad, come and visit the archaeological sites at Bigo bya Mugenyi. How come you dispute the reality?
They just used to be, but for us we used to see them.
So, the phase of Chwezi tradition believes that the Chwezi phased in three ways. First, the Chwezi as demigods. Then the second phase, the Chwezi as the Chwezi rulers. Then the last, the Chwezi when the Luo come in to bring in the Luo Bito culture. And the Luo Bito are seen to be the last phase. Invaders have come from the north. They cross River Nile in a place called Chope. They enter the great Bunyoro Kitara, which is actually the cradle for Chwezi. The Chwezi found they cannot coexist, and history thinks they just disappeared.
Mpuga collected the regalia items left behind by Wamara and used them for his coronation, creating for himself a new power base headquarters of the new Bito Bunyoro Kitara kingdom at the present-day Hoima.
You see, the Chwezi were ruling the kingdom, the empire, with what they call an iron hand. They are very, very militant and very, very strong, disciplined. But because of that character, the people became restless. So there appeared a spirit of rebellion against the Chwezi. Now the Chwezi could not stand this. They decided to disappear.